Galactus kills the Marvel Universe, and this story is amazing. Dude, the ending's gonna blow your minds. So what this does is this picks up with Doctor Doom being rescued by Valeria Richards, the daughter of Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four. And Doctor Doom is actually being rescued out of what is in effect this just giant mech floating out in space that's been absolutely crushed. Now, a couple things to know here. We will get an explanation in terms of what went on here with Doctor Doom, but there's a reason why Valeria Richards is the one who's rescuing him. And that goes all the way back to the Fantastic Four by Jonathan Hickman. It's one of the reasons why I always say, you can read Hickman's stories in isolation, right? You read Fantastic Four, Secret Warriors, S.H.I.E.L.D., and then Avengers, New Avengers, going into Secret Wars, and then you can just jump to this, and you just read it all by itself in this one cohesive story. But while Valeria Richards is the daughter of Reed, and Reed isn't really a neglectful dad, Doctor Doom was kind of like the uncle for her, right? He was the guy that sort of stepped in and in a lot of ways protected her, guided her, showed her what it meant to actually face against insurmountable odds. And instead of just sitting around calculating things and so on and so forth like her father would do, to just kind of jump out there and take risks and just see what happens. It's the reason why, if you pay close attention to the nature of Valeria in Marvel, she's kind of a perfect blend between Doctor Doom and Reed Richards. And so once they get Doom on board, there's this really cool kind of moment where they talk about what it is that they're doing here. Of course, she's talking to Herbie, essentially the sentient computer of the Fantastic Four. And what happens is that as Doctor Doom's vitals start to look good, they ultimately end up just kind of removing all the anesthetics and then pumping oxygen back into his body, essentially resurrecting him from the dead, if we want to call it that. And one of the things they do is they inject super soldier serum into Doctor Doom. Now, there's a reason why they do that here. But what happens is when Doom wakes up, it's just this kind of charred husk of a human being. He asks Valeria, what in the world happened? And her response, you fought Galactus and you lost. Now, that's the tip of the iceberg, guys, because she says, Herbie has accessed the memory core of your great Doom Titan and replayed the battle between you and Galactus. I've checked and double-checked all of your calculations. Under normal circumstances, you should have been able to hold your own, but what you didn't know was exactly how relentless the World Eater's pilgrimage had been. You assumed and were foolish to act so quickly. And he asks, like your father and all the others, and she says, they were foolish to wait. That's kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about her sort of being a blend between Reed Richards and Doctor Doom. And she says, you assumed a universal constant like Galactus would remain constant, that billions of years of consistent behavior would continue without change. You were disabused of that notion. And I love that statement because what she basically said was, you effed around and you found out, right? That's literally what she tells him in no uncertain terms. But here, kind of stepping back, here's what she's saying. And those of you guys who are familiar with Marvel Comics and Galactus, bear with me for a second because I'm kind of addressing the people who are not. Galactus has been around since the beginnings of the universe and even before that. Technically, Galactus is a space explorer named Gallon who predates the current universe. But when that universe was ending, he merged with that universe's sentience and was reborn into this universe. So while he was still kind of in the birthing process when this universe came into existence and he sat in a literal cosmic egg, just kind of learning his energies and understanding his powers for like billions of years after the birth of this universe, still, when he emerged, he was one of the universe's earliest beings. But because of the nature of Galactus and the fact that he has to consume life-sustaining worlds in order to keep himself alive, he's always very slow with what he does, right? That's why she says, he broke your machine, and then he broke you. After that, Galactus continued forward. And she says, I understand why the mistake was made. Galactus is nothing if not an exercise in energy conservation. He moves slowly through the universe, coveting his energy, controlling his appetite. We have never seen, this universe has never witnessed the World Eater both rampant and ravenous. But that is what defines him now. Equilibrium be damned, he is surrendered to the madness to the hunger. Now, what she's talking about here is the fact that as a character, because Galactus houses so much energy, and because traveling from one side of the universe to the next and so on consumes so much energy, and just existing consumes all of his energy, that's why he has heralds like Silver Surfer or Nova, Frankie Ray, or Terrax the Enlightened, or Terrax the Tamer, technically. That's why he has these kinds of guys, because it's a conservation of energy. Why go out and hunt for all these worlds when I can have heralds find worlds for me and then tell me where they are, and I just teleport there and consume them? Whenever we have seen Galactus ravenous, Galactus hungry, he just kind of beelines for a world, consumes it, gets his appetite back up, and then just kind of goes forward from there, right? He slows back down again and then goes and does his thing. That's why she says we've never seen a Galactus that is fully sated, right? It is not hungry, but just goes on a rampage across the universe, consuming worlds anyway. It's so strange. And so what she says is, after you, he did not stop. He raced from planet to planet, devouring all. Worlds fell, societies collapsed. Whole civilizations were erased as he ate world after world after world. And then he came to Earth. Now, this is where things get crazy, because I know it's what you guys were hoping for, right? Like, where you guys are watching this video and you're like, okay, I mean, this is cool and everything, Rob, but like, does he kill the superheroes? Because I'll be honest, man, I love it when all the superheroes die in Marvel Comics. I'm sorry, I know it's terrible, I'm a terrible person, but I love it when it happens. Because they do. So what happens is that Reed Richards, in staying back and analyzing the whole situation, right? Dr. Doom took off into space and was like, I'll figure out what's going on and I'll confront Galactus head on if I need to. Galactus shows up to Earth and all the superheroes are united by Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four, right? She says, when you and Father first discovered what Galactus had been doing and where his eventual path led, you decided to act, and Father decided to do what he always does. He attempted to solve the problem. So he gathered all of Earth's heroes. He gathered all of Earth's villains. He strategized. He planned. He solved for everything. An army was assembled. They stood in the gap, faced the great enemy, and Galactus destroyed them all. Every single superhero on Earth. Now, let's be honest with ourselves, guys. I mean, come on. There's no way that all the superheroes on Earth would be able to stand against the might of Galactus. Now, there are obvious caveats that are being left out here. A lot of you guys are going to ask about characters like Molecule Man. Don't worry, we'll see him. He's in this story. But when it comes to characters like Franklin Richards, for example, where is he in the midst of all this? Because Franklin is equal to Galactus in power. Those kinds of things largely seem to be ignored here, or seemingly he doesn't exist. I don't really see him in this particular instance, but superheroes like Cable, Juggernaut, all the Fantastic Four, all the Avengers, Carnage, Thor, the whole 9 yards, they all get eradicated. And here's the crazy thing, right? What she says is he left our planet a husk, an empty shell, a dead world where nothing would live again. That was 2 years ago, and I've been looking for you ever since. And so Dr. Doom doesn't just kind of just be like, oh my God, you know, this is crazy. Dr. Doom does what he always does. He starts asking questions, and he asks Valeria, how in the world did you survive? When everybody else died, how did you make it out of this alive? And Valeria chimes in, again, this kind of balance between Reed and Doom, where she says, I was never seduced by the short-term satisfaction of victory. I've always been more interested in survival, just like you. And Dr. Doom gives her like the most Victor Von Doom response, right? No, Valeria, Doom does not survive. Doom endures. And so what you find out is after Galactus had shown up to Earth and killed all the superheroes, that the spacefaring superheroes all united. The Guardians of the Galaxy, Richard Rider and the Nova Corps, like Beta Ray Bill, the Inhumans, which doesn't really surprise me, the Inhumans suck, right? No wonder they got killed. But like all these different superheroes all show up. And Galactus killed them anyway. It didn't matter. She says, after Earth, the Guardians of the Universe assembled and met Galactus just outside of Council space, but they fared no better than the defenders of Earth. So yes, of all the living things that measure their lives by normal means, only we remain. And then he simply just says, then I will need armor. And so what you get is this explanation of why he even got the super soldier serum in the first place and how all this is transpiring. Because while this is going on, right, while they're talking, Galactus is still rampaging across the cosmos to those various cosmic beings that remain, what few of them remain: Adam Warlock, the Silver Surfer, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Annihilus, right? And he's just killing them all, right? So the last vestiges of anything that exists is being obliterated right now. And she says, you will need more than armor. Your ordinary armor simply won't do, but I think I have a solution. The problem is that your human biology cannot support what I've built. You'll need to become something more. I've grafted the blood of a celestial onto human plasma. The super soldier serum Herbie gave you earlier should keep it from killing you while your body synthesizes it. And so in effect, he now has celestial energy. He's effectively a cosmic entity, but he still gets amped up. She says, as for your armor, it's a composite of uru and vibranium. Of course, uru is the metal that Thor's hammer is made out of. And she says, one for strength and durability, the other to serve as a conduit for the 3 cosmic cubes that power both you and the suit. What do you think, Uncle Doom? And I gotta say, man, Dr. Doom, powered by celestial energy and 3 cosmic cubes, he looks pretty dope, man. It's pretty insane. I really want to see this in a movie. If I'm being honest with you guys, I really, really want to see this in a movie. And so what happens is that with Dr. Doom gaining celestial energy, there's another component to this alongside the cosmic cubes that sort of come together. And what that is effectively cosmic awareness. He's now fully aware of everything taking place in the universe all at one time. And one of the things that Marvel has kind of hit on over the years, but never really solidified, and it's not really being solidified here, but sort of under the current, and it's something that you pick up on if you read cosmic stories long enough, there's a kind of shared consciousness among cosmic entities. Not in the sense that they share a hive mind, but in the sense that they're all kind of aware of what the other is doing and what their motivations are. And what Dr. Doom says is he's like, you, Valeria, you figured it out, didn't you? And she says, 2 days ago, I watched a spiral galaxy eat a broken nebula, and it was so insignificant, it was just background noise, a brilliant nothing compared to the silhouette of what unfolded before it. And it was Galactus facing off against all the Celestials, or at least the most powerful of the Celestials. And it doesn't matter, right? This is just like a repeat of what we saw in Jonathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers run, when we saw the Beyonders killing all the cosmic entities, because that's what Galactus does. She says, I watched it all from a few light years away, Galactus overflowing with the power of hundreds of devoured planets, going to war with celestial gods. The heavens shook as the Eater of Worlds fought the judges of them. It was terrifying. Many gods have fallen in the time that we have known each other, Uncle. Deicide is something that we have both seen, but I swear, the killing of an entire pantheon is a sight best left for the blind. Who would do such a thing? Who could do such a thing? And she says, look if you dare, Uncle. The answer is Galactus. Now, here's the cool thing about all this, right? This is one of the reasons why reading Jonathan Hickman's stories pays off. The way that this is phrased is a callback to Hank Pym Ant-Man. Because if you guys recall, when the multiverse was collapsing in the early days and the Illuminati hadn't quite figured out what was going on, they sent Ant-Man into the multiverse to try to find a solution, and this guy Rabu Malal, who was supposedly responsible for the collapse of all things. While Ant-Man initially went out there trying to find a true north in an infinite expanse of universes seemed almost impossible. Eventually he was able to locate one, and he just started jumping from one universe to the next. He crossed through universes like Days of Future Past, Age of Ultron, where Ultron had conquered everything in existence, but eventually he was able to kind of hitch a ride along some of the plot threads that were going on at that point in time, and then ultimately came across the Beyonders wiping out all the Celestials across the multiverse. It was 3 of them. It was 3 Beyonders, right? 1 for each universe that he was witnessing at that point, right? 3 universes being destroyed, and they were wiping out all the Celestials. Then they killed the cosmic entities. Then they killed the living tribunal. And one of the things he said as he was explaining it is, seeing something like that, it almost breaks you. If you don't have the mental fortitude, right, just the intelligence to be able to keep your mind together, you will lose it, right? Just like multiversal genocide is how he described it. So it's the way that this is phrased that it's just calling back to that. It doesn't remove the significance of the story if you've never read it, but it just adds to it. And so it's just so cool, right, to see all these little callbacks and all these little things. And so what Dr. Doom says is how you're perceiving this, Valeria, isn't necessarily correct. He's like, the answer is directly in front of you. He's like, you know what an ultimate nullifier is. You've held one in your hands. This is its monstrous mother, a nameless entropic nightmare, a universe killer, and a universe creator, the death of one so that it may be replaced by another. Galactus, it seems, is tired of waiting for his role, to witness the end of one universe and the start of a new one born from its destruction. And so what he's done here is create this just gigantic equivalent of an ultimate nullifier. Now, for those of you guys who don't know what an ultimate nullifier is, it was a device that was actually created by Galactus. And how it works is relative to the person that's using it. That if a person is intelligent or capable enough, they can destroy virtually anything with it. But if a person's kind of a dummy, they can more or less destroy themselves, or it might create a few fireworks here and there, right? You know, pop gun or something along those lines. But what Galactus is doing here is that, as we saw in Hickman's Fantastic Four run, we saw that Galactus and Franklin Richards were destined to merge into a singular being at the end of this universe, and then emerge in the next universe as that composite being. Galactus is just speeding up the process. I don't want to wait billions of more years. I'm ready to just end things now, right? So let's just set this thing off with a bang. And that's exactly what happens here, because what Doom says is we have to stop him before this happens. But he tells Valeria he will have heralds. He will have people at his disposal that he can use in order to prevent us from destroying this device that he's created, right? This universe killer. And what we find out are the 3 heralds that he has are molecule men. 3 separate guys. Now, here's the kicker about this. One of these is clearly Owen Reese from the universe, this particular universe, because we know that Owen Reese is universal across every universe in the multiverse. It's always the same origin. Where the other 2 came from, we don't entirely know. Honestly, I'm a little curious myself. Did he potentially pluck them out of the multiverse or something like that? There's not really a definitive answer here. And honestly, there doesn't need to be, because with Dr. Doom having 3 cosmic cubes and celestial energy, this guy shows up and just dominates these molecule men, quite readily, in fact. Now, it's not to say they don't put up a fight. They do. But what you're witnessing here is just levels of power on an extreme degree. A lot of people kind of like to craft these arguments or have these discussions, right? You know, the Marquis of Death, who wiped out a whole universe with the wave of his hand, versus somebody like the molecule man Owen Reese, right? Who was able to fix the multiverse with a snap of his finger. And while those kind of discussions and debates are interesting, at the end of the day, that level of power is so extreme, it might as well all be the same thing, right? There is no real differentiation there. And that's kind of how you see it here. That's how you see it unfolding. This is a massive battle on a cosmic level. And in fact, the power that these guys are displaying here in this battle is more than enough to annihilate an entire star system, an entire galaxy, let alone send shockwaves and kill who knows what across the universe. Now, seemingly, because Galactus is so feasted on these worlds that he's consumed, and because there is no limit to the amount of power that he can store, he's far more powerful than he's ever been. And that's why he's not really affected by the nature of this battle between these guys. But as cool as it is, right? Dr. Doom gives us this amazing monologue. He says, "What follows are the final words of Doom. For most, everything ends in regret, and such regret often leads to particular questions. How did it come to this? Where did things go wrong? Could it have been prevented? And most of all, how did we not see this coming?" Some argue that the right person at the right time could have prevented what happened. I know the folly of this thinking. When the end comes, there will always be the desperate cries of what if. As a tyrant, as a despot, as a ruler of men, I have heard all the questions the damned do surely ask, because they think that civilization could have been saved, that the empire of man could have been maintained, but they do not understand the nature of the universe, the infinite finite, the endless end. They pray for a miracle, and why would they not? I've performed no small number of them, but they are praying for someone to hold up something that is already collapsing all around them. A god came to Earth and judged it. Galactus judged the Earth and every other planet that exists, and he found that we were not worth saving. Still, they pray, someone save us, but one cannot save what is already lost. So I beg you, take a moment and think about all the things that are gone, but more than that, what we still have to lose. And so what he does is he chimes into Valeria, because her job is to get aboard the vessel while Doom is fighting against the Molecule Men and then find a way to destroy it. Ultimately, it doesn't seem like she can, or at least she can't do it remotely. And so she has to stay there and activate this thing. In essence, she sacrifices her life to pull it off. And that's why you get this really cool moment. It's not as long as I would have liked it to have been, but it's fine with the length that we got, where she basically says, Uncle Doom, I want you to know something. You were always good to me. You protected me, looked after me. I want you to know I loved you for it. She presses the button and destroys the device. And so what happens is Doom, witnessing that Valeria is dead, essentially lashes out with all this power that he has. And the last moment that we get in this story is Doom recollecting on his own life when he says, life ends for all of us, so accept it with head held high, refusing to be judged by what gods remain in the universe, and unscarred by whatever sins lie in your past. When all that remains is one final moment of defiance, embrace Doom and laugh in its face, because the last thing we see is Galactus seemingly standing with the cosmic entities at his back, facing Dr. Doom, who's ready to go down swinging. With that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to an end because that's it. It's a massive cliffhanger. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.